This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
And you are listening to the latest episode of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company, brought to you by DC Sports at Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights and also the Detroit Sports Commission. Please follow DC Sports on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit, and also make sure to check out their terrific website at DetroitCitySports.com. As for the Detroit Sports Commission, located in beautiful downtown Detroit, you can follow the Detroit Sports Commission on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports. And also make sure to check out their terrific website at DetroitSports.org.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
And a welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco, alongside my brother in just a short minute or two, as John Charles Macaroon is out for this week, and he will be back with me, I presume, for next week's episode of Tigers Talk. So, once again, mi hermano, as I like to call him, my brother, that is Dominic Chirco, is my guest and my co-host on this week's episode of Tigers Talk, being recorded remotely from our lovely house at what I call the Delta Resort in Clinton Township, Michigan. So we will get into everything 2021-wise for the Tigers in terms of my projections for that squad. But before all of that with Dom, I get into his evaluation for this year's club and how the season went in Motown. And the positives, the negatives, all of the above regarding the Tigers' 2019 campaign. And we also discuss a little bit of playoff baseball to wrap up this week's episode of Tigers Talk. And without further ado, here is my chat now with my brother, Dominic Chirco. All right, Dominic Chirco with me now, my brother, and we are starting up a weekly podcast that is set to debut on Sunday. It is called Sundays with Dom and Vito. So I put Dom's name there first for the show, and that's because of the fact I want to give him some love. He deserves that. He really deserves that honor, doesn't he? As he now has graduated from Detroit Mercy.
Me.
Right? He graduated, this guy, from Detroit Mercy in May, has a full-time job now at a immigration firm. So he's doing really well for himself, a full-time gig there, and Dom joins us now. So enough of me as I digress and intro Dominic Chirco officially. Dominic, how are you doing, by the way?
Vito, I'm doing well. Glad to be back on. Start anew here.
So it's been a while. It really has. Now, I guess really quick here, Dom, since this is Tigers Talk, your quick evaluation, doesn't have to be that quick actually, but your evaluation of the Tigers' 2019 campaign is what now?
It's pretty dreadful, but it's coincidentally, if you break everything down, the Tigers have had the three worst years for a Major League Baseball team in the past 20 years. So, not the 3 exactly. I think they're all in the top 5, but it's a dreadful year for sure.
Dreadful year. Wow, quick evaluation there. Now, how about the positives now? Give me some positives. I know you're a big White Sox fan, and you've seen some positives and some negatives, probably many negatives, right, for the White Sox. Many negatives as well, and even more for the Tigers. But how about those positives?
It's obviously few and far between for the Tigers positives. I would say, wow. I mean, Kristen Stewart has looked like he belongs on the team. I think he could provide a bench bat at some point in a couple years, potentially start in left field for the Tigers. He does have the power. His average, he's in the 240s right now, but I feel like he has better at bats. He's not pulling off the ball as much in watching some of the games, and I feel like he needs to learn how to hit the ball the other way. If he does learn how to do that, he can become a pretty good player. Obviously, the other guys too that have had good years, like Harold Castro. I mean, there's never going to be a lot of power there, but another guy that could hit his way into a bench bat at some point. There's not really a lot of potential starters. I mean, Candelario's taking a step back. Not sure if he's a part of the future anymore. But if you look at the minor leagues, obviously the pitching looks pretty good. Obviously, Skybal.
Progress out of him this year. The
Big
top 5
progress out of
prospect
him.
now for the Tigers in their farm system, according to many publications. And MLB Pipeline, I know, has rated him as a top 5 prospect in their farm system.
Yeah, and so I think the pitching's good. I think they got to somehow find a way to get bats in here. I think Isaac Paredes is a guy that defensively already I think belongs here. He reminds me a lot of Yunel Escobar coming up in the Braves farm system. So I think that if he starts to hit a little bit more, a little bit better, consistently, then Paredes might be the guy to look for as far as position player.
How about another Castro on the Tigers right now, Willie Castro, and I have to bring him up because I interviewed him. I hope you listened to it, Dom. I know you really did from start to finish, that Willie Castro interview. Now, Tigers' long-term starting shortstop, could he be that, you think? Come 2021, as I do want to project that a little bit with you as well before the end of this week's episode of Tigers Talk.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the focus is going to be for the draft in the scouting department, but I would feel like, up the middle is where the Tigers need a lot. Center field, shortstop, and second base. They need something there. I think Willie's more or less a plug-in. He has his up and down so far. Nothing consistent. Doesn't have enough at-bats to really woo me over. So I feel like the Tigers should focus on drafting maybe a prep shortstop, like the Royals did this year with Bobby Witt Jr. The Royals, if they're a good earmark for the Tigers, or benchmark for them. I think they've done really good as far as international scouting. They have Eric Pena, who they signed last year, I believe. Young outfielder, the Royals do. Could be playing pretty soon for them as well. They have Whit Merrifield, Mondesi, who struggled at the plate, but something as far as a blueprint for the Tigers up the middle. And that's how you win nowadays, too, up the middle. So if you look at the really good teams, the Astros, the Yankees, they're really good up the middle. I think the Tigers should focus on that, especially with position players.
The Tigers will, I think, easily take Tim Anderson off the White Sox hands. The White Sox would like to deal him. Tigers will take him. Is he the batting champion now in the American League? He's going to be the batting champion, isn't he?
Yeah.
Great season out of him.
Close.
Tigers could use a position player like that. And the White Sox have a couple of those guys that really can hit already that are youngsters. Tim Anderson, Eloy Jimenez, even younger, who's had a 30 home run season. So Yoel Moncada at second base. So up the middle, it seems like the White Sox will be steady for years. He can play second short. He plays third too,
They're
right,
not
Moncada?
perfect. Actually, they have to.
But go on. Not that we're going to make this a conversation about the White Sox, but just trying to give you some love here a little bit.
Their outfield
could be better.
Yeah, I mean defensively in left field.
I was just
Loy
giving your boys, your young guys, some
but
love.
center field and right field they could use upgrades for, and it's obviously the pitching too. So.
Very good, Dom. Well, back to the Tigers talk here. Now up the middle, you also have to consider catcher. And is that Jake Rogers' job to lose moving forward? What do you think about his long-term viability as a starting catcher for the Tigers?
So I think you're seeing a lot of catchers that are more or less a defensive catcher first, but one catcher that has power. So teams look for power now, and nowadays I think you got to actually hit a little bit more than you used to, and not. I mean, you can get away with having a low average, but have some pop in that bat. I think another thing with Rogers is he's going to need a lot of experience at the dish to get the plate appearances, the at bats, to get that experience and develop into at least a 10 home run hitter at some point.
Well, here's the thing. Will he be good enough to do that starting next season? Because looking at their catcher outlook, it's very bleak for the Tigers, isn't it? For internal options. Grayson Griner, he's your starting catcher next year. I know he's hit of late a little bit more than he was earlier in the season, but is he your starting catcher going into the 2020 season? If he is your starting catcher, I mean, I'm not liking the Tigers' hopes there for productivity on a consistent basis at backstop next season.
Yeah, I think Rogers has to. Rogers, I've said this again, getting at bats, but I think the key is really to lift the ball, and I think he's shown. He started off with the Tigers. He did show the ability to lift the ball in the air, and if you look at he is a little bit late on his fastballs, and pitch recognition is a little off right now, but I feel like he's definitely capable of that. I don't think he's ever going to be a high average guy, but
I mean, what does he have to hit to be a starter? I mean, realistically, for all these catchers, young or old, to be a starting catcher at the major league level, what do they have to hit? If they bring the glove, nice glove work, and can throw out runners too at a pretty frequent
you can
rate.
get away with hitting about 240.
Yeah, let's say 240 to 250.
Yeah.
And hopefully you hit with a little bit of pop.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can bring like 10 home run power on a regular basis, right? That'd be something good out of Jake Rogers or anybody starting at that position moving forward. Or maybe the Tigers get lucky and get James McCann back, who I just was looking at his numbers here. Now the game, as we're talking, for Dom and I, that's being broadcast on ESPN, is Dom's White Sox taking on the Indians, who look like they're going to make it in, maybe at least, as a second wild card in the American League. And James McCann, I just saw his numbers, and his numbers have dropped. They have since he had that great first half of the season and became an all-star with the White Sox this season. But his average and OPS have all gone down since he had that great start to the season. But he's that guy, I mean, based on what he was doing, how he was hitting, Dom, he's a guy that probably a lot of teams would like then. That kind of a catcher, right, that can also hit like McCann was in the first half. And he is a guy that's going to be a free agent after the 2020 campaign. So with that being said, looking at the Tigers' potential 2021 roster, it'd be nice to have a guy that's a veteran like James McCann being the starting backstop come 2021. Now, probably a pipe dream, with him coming back to Motown and then a few of these other names that I will rattle off here eventually. But how about McCann? His viability being the Tigers' catcher and starting catcher once again one day, Dom. Could it happen? Come on, give me some hope here for 2021 with James McCann.
I'm sorry. The White Sox are more than 50% chance that they're going to lock him up again.
Long term then now too. He's on a what kind of deal?
Just a 1 year.
1 year deal, actually, yeah. So he's being underpaid at this point.
Wait.
A short-term deal, and he's being underpaid, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, so, and Wellington Castillo has been really bad for them, and he's going to come off the books. So I think that the White Sox, at least is what I'm hearing and seeing, is that they're going to lock him up, especially because the young catchers, Zach Collins and Sebi Zavala, aren't ready yet. They're gonna lock him up to make sure he's there. And he's been good in the clubhouse too.
A good veteran presence too, which the Tigers could use as well with this young core that they currently have.
So I would honestly be surprised if the White Sox didn't lock him up.
McCann, you surely can come back to Motown if you would like to roar again with the Tigers. But anyways, moving on from that position, which I think McCann could be a possibility if the White Sox don't extend him, don't sign him long term. Anyways, moving on to first base. Jeimer Candelario, the Candyman, could be the Tigers' starting first baseman, I believe, come 2021. What do you think about the feasibility of that, Dom?
Yeah, I think there's not a lot there again.
I mean, you got Miguel, who's a DH now.
So, obviously, he had a good glove at third base, although he has regressed a little bit in the defensive end as well. But Jeimer Candelario is a guy that somehow it looked like he was, hitting himself out of a spot. But I feel like, especially because the team is so bad, that they're going to give him all the chances in the world. They got him in the trade last offseason or last trade deadline with the Cubs, and he always had really good bat control, bat discipline, high OBP in the minors.
What happened this year, Big D? Tell me,
he
please.
had injuries. He had the wrist problem, and that's a big injury, especially when it comes to hitting, because he can't get around on the ball. Fastballs, he might be underneath a lot of them. Might be reluctant to hit. Might hurt when he's, if you're pitching inside, that hurts. So he probably wasn't 100% healthy with the wrist, and then he had other injuries around the rest of his body as well. So I feel like if he's got a good spring going for him, his swing is really good. His bat path looks better the last couple of games. I feel like there's, at least temporarily, he has a spot in Tiger's future.
Second base now. My man, my buddy. He's my friend, because I interviewed him. Nico Goodrum. How good will the run be by 2021, and will it be good enough to warrant him being the starting second baseman for the Tigers in 2021, Dom?
Yeah, I'd like to see what the Tigers do in the draft as well, because I think if there's a young infielder that's out there that can play right away, even a college infielder, someone in that capacity, I feel like that'll potentially could be an upgrade over Goodrum. I don't really think Goodrum's a starter.
Probably better as a utility guy. They can play a little bit of outfield too. He plays center field. He's played center field this season as well.
Although he's hit much better right-handed, he's not really a good right-handed hitter. I feel like there's not a lot of upside there, unfortunately.
Well, I think he is what he is. He's a decent ball player, but he's probably not going to be a great starter. If you ask him to start a lot, which I think is what happened this year, it'll wear and tear. It'll grow on him, right? And become too much for him to handle, and the wear and tear will really start showing up consistently. And I think you saw that with him
as a
this
pitcher,
season as well.
You can use his aggressiveness to your advantage as well. He's very aggressive at the plate.
He was trying to go for the homer. He's trying for the big hit a lot, right?
Right. So I feel like you can kind of toy with him a little bit. There's some pitchers that'll, he's on the Tigers, so he's going to get good pitches to hit. And that's probably what helped him this year at the dish. His BABIP was probably really high. So that probably all coincided with the year he did have.
But my man Goodrum has a lack of plate discipline, and that's a big issue with him. But with the Tigers collectively, they're the worst club in all of baseball right now with plate discipline, right? It's pretty widespread club issue right now, right? Yeah. It seems like that with the Tigers down.
And there's not a lot of good results either. They're last in total runs.
Everything. Batting average, I think, offensive stats across the board. And then the guys that have some promising potential, right, and upside, such as Victor Reyes, who's done great. You have to even admit, Tom, as a non-Tigers guy, look at what he's done right in the second half, hitting the ball and hitting it for power even, too. And he can field. He has a arm that is good enough as well to warrant him playing out there in center field and really all over the outfield, and he's quick enough to get to balls at center. I like him,
I feel
but
like
he's another guy that has plate discipline issues, doesn't he, Dom?
Yeah, I feel like he is better than Jacoby Jones because I think he's got better isolated power. And if you add his average and his OPS,
so you think better consistent power then?
He's not hitting home runs, but I think he's got the swing path, the swing approach where he's got a little bit of an uppercut. He should be hitting balls out of the park. He's not doing that
yet. And
he's
massive. How tall? He's like 6'5" or something.
Mm-hmm.
He's bigger than
He's
Jones.
got long arms.
Yep.
He should be hitting. It's still not happening, but he's between the line drive and fly ball hitter. I think if they get him to focus on hitting more balls in the air, his average might dip. He's close to he's a 270 hitter. The way you can just naturally a 270
probably
hitter.
Can be 275 next year, maybe better than that in 2021. But
hopefully
like you said,
the home run numbers go up,
and hopefully those numbers do rise. And then
because he's got way too much potential to waste.
And then Jacoby Jones. Then let's talk about him a little bit because you already brought him up. How about him being a fourth outfielder come 2021? And then I didn't even ask you really about Reyes, but him being the starting center fielder for the Tigers come 2021, and Jones being a fourth outfielder type. How about the feasibility, the plausibility? I haven't used that word probably ever on the podcast. I just thought of it, Dom. The plausibility of that being the case in 2021.
Well, another thing, if you look internally with the Tigers, especially their outfield, Das Cameron, young hitter, another guy can't really put the ball in play. He does appear to have more pop, than, let's say, Victor Reyes even right now. But I feel like Reyes is the guy that is the best hitter out of all three of them. And if somehow he were to find that power stroke inside him, because they say he has some of the best batting practices of all the Tigers. I mean, he hits balls out of the park like no other, and then so when he's in the game, that's got to that batting practice has got to translate to the game where he's hitting balls to the fence. I think he is the best out center fielder out of that group. Reyes, but
and he was a Rule 5 draft pick who had to play all of last year at the big league level and probably struggled because of that. And he wasn't good last year. But they've talked about it, and you have as well. I got to give it credit because you haven't been on the podcast to really talk about Victor Reyes. I don't think anybody has. But you said it a while back, I think last year when the Tigers had him, that he had probably the most potential of any of these Tigers young guys to be a solid performer at the big league level. So you called it, Dom, before anybody else. Almost, I think. Now, Daz Cameron, really quick, came in that Astros trade, the Verlander trade to the Houston Astros. Talk to me about that trade and what you think about that right now, because I got to believe you don't like it that much. Daz Cameron, Jake Rogers, and Franklin Perez. Perez, I hope, doesn't become a bust. I really do. He had all the potential, but all the arm injuries now known to mankind, it seems like he has gone through. And not a good season statistically speaking as well this year.
Shut him down.
And they had to shut him down early. Now, what do you think about this return the Tigers got for Verlander? Can these guys realize their potential one day? And you started talking about Daz Cameron. How about the ceiling for Daz at the major league level? Is it just to be a power hitter and that's it pretty much, Dom?
Yeah, I think I see a lot of, unfortunately, Lewis Brinson in his game.
Please tell my listeners now about Lewis Brinson, because I don't know much about Lewis myself.
Well,
please inform me.
He was another high draft pick, Texas Rangers. And a lot of these outfielders are very similar. Brinson if he's got like an Olympic athlete built body, can play great defense. If you watch him play, his defense is phenomenal. Great arm, great everything out there in center field. But he doesn't have a bat. He strikes out a lot, swings and misses a lot. And right now, that appears to be Daz's trajectory. I think he might have a little bit more power potential than Brinson, just because he's a little bit more compact at the plate, where Brinson kind of flails a little bit. Daz does show a little bit more, I guess, plate instincts, kind of like his father a little bit. So, but he's diminutive, comparatively speaking.
Is he bigger than me?
Yes.
Oh, he is, though. Oh, okay. I can't believe that.
I'm saying,
can't believe that to be true.
I'm saying his father.
Oh, okay.
But
bigger than Vito Jerome Chirco.
Bigger than Vito Jerome Chirco.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, good to know that.
But I feel like there's strikeouts in his bats, but everyone's doing that right now. I just don't know how much that power is there yet for Daz Cameron.
And I think we just witnessed, as we're talking here and recording this podcast, Jose Ramirez just went deep again. 2 times in this game on Tuesday night, and he just returned from the IL.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy, man. He's crazy good, isn't he? And he had a miserable first half. But anyways, third base for the Tigers. Is that a good transition there from Ramirez to that? Mm-hmm. But Isaac Paredes, who you were talking about, could he be the Tigers' long-term answer at third? I think they hope that is the case, and I think they need that to be the case as well, Dom. What do you have to say?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's another position where you got to hit. You know, you look at all the third basemen nowadays. You got to be able to hit, and this is pretty much anywhere on the field, but third base is especially a premium position for hitting. And Isaac is very good defensively. Like I said, I mean, he's probably the best. I don't know if I said this, but he's probably the best defensive player.
Fielding tools guy. I mean, because he plays first, short, and third. Now, he's a little bit of a bigger body. He's a bigger body shortstop, like a Johnny
really
Peralta kind of shortstop,
really
right?
Good.
But better fielding even?
Better fielding.
And even though Peralta actually was solid, people still don't give him credit probably to this day.
Yunel Escobar.
Right? Solid even. It's just they're not going to get to a lot of balls.
But they're
hole,
really
right?
good. They're really good.
Yeah.
He's very good defensively. He's sure-handed at shortstop, for his build. It's just his bat isn't there. I mean, he makes contact, but it doesn't really translate into extra base hits or home runs even yet. And that's the name of the game now. You can go every position, but third base especially. I feel like he's more of a second baseman. And I feel like the Tigers...
Which has been talked about too, I know.
I feel like he, maybe in 2 years, could be the starting second baseman. And I feel like the Tigers might go outside the organization, or like I said, especially for shortstop and third base, if there's a player out there in the draft.
How about Andrelton Simmons?
Yeah,
Simmons from the Halos, good fielding shortstop, can hit a little bit, hit good enough.
Or you can go free agent wise. But in recent memory, the Tigers have spent very minimally at that position.
Now, Andrelton Simmons, though, is a free agent after the 2020 campaign, so going into the 2021 season, that offseason going into the 2021 campaign, could be available for the Tigers to attain. Now, 2 corner outfielders I want to bring up that could be available come the offseason after the 2020 campaign are Mookie Betts of the Boston Red Sox and Michael Brantley of the Houston Astros, the former Cleveland Indian. Now, both are really good corner outfielders. How about Brantley becoming the Tigers' starting left fielder come 2021, and Mookie Betts becoming the Tigers' starting right fielder come 2021, which I think every Major League Baseball club would like to happen, honestly, right, Dom?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit...
Too much of a pipe dream right there.
Wishful thinking.
I mean, which guy's more feasible? I think it's Brantley because he's older.
Brantley
I can get him
for sure.
cheaper, right?
Yeah.
And they'll be looking for veteran pieces like that at that point anyways.
Yeah, Brantley for sure would be more feasible. And he's got experience in the division already as it is. So there's going to be comfortability.
And his
with
pure
the pitching.
hitting tools, man, are off the chart, aren't they, really? I mean, he's like a huge contact guy that hits for power, too.
Yeah, now he does, yeah.
Yeah, more and more, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's, like I said, the name of the game where everyone's hitting for power now. I mean, there's very few... I mean, the best signing this offseason was DJ LeMahieu, and he's still got how many home runs? So, how many home runs does he have?
You were asking me, Dom. Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't sure of that. But here's a guy that hits for contact that's hit all these home runs, too. Now he plays at Yankee Stadium. Right, that's the advantageous aspect of that for any hitter that goes and becomes a Bronx Bomber. But now, would you argue that he'd be the MVP in the American League if it wasn't for Mike Trout? I mean, is Mike Trout your MVP pick, actually, first and foremost, Dom?
Yeah, I mean, by default.
By default,
Yeah,
okay.
'cause
So and he's hurt, and he's still going to win the MVP. Now, after him, though, would it be LeMahieu or Rafael Devers?
I think
Who do you think?
I think it's
Dan?
Alex Bregman.
Bregman, actually.
Because
What a
he's-
name, but he's very good as well.
I think he has. I mean, his OPS is right there. I think it's just below Trout even. I mean, if you look at what happened, I mean, they didn't have Correa all year. They didn't have Altuve all year, and he's been consistently. He's been their best player, Houston, on a team that might win the World Series.
Has a lot of really good players that are all-stars.
He's the best player, Alex Bregman, on hitting and defensively as well. He's shown out at third base, and he's probably been even slightly better than Devers. Devers has been on sort of a downswing a little bit since he was leading the league in batting and whatnot, but Bregman's been consistently the best player on Houston. And I feel like, I mean, his OPS numbers are right there, his on-base and slugging. His slugging's right there, too, where I feel like if Trout wasn't in the conversation, that Bregman might be the MVP.
Devers, the second coming of Miguel Cabrera, the best young hitter since Miggy. Is that true, Dom? Has some stats that back up that claim. What do you think? And really, it's more about Devers now sustaining it. Is he the guy that can sustain it moving forward with the Bo Sox, too?
Yeah, I mean, he's...
Because he did slide a little bit in the second half, like you said.
He's hitting everything. I mean, lefties, righties, but he's using all fields. He's not swinging at pitches in the dirt like he did last year. But what helped him, I think, his confidence at the plate is his defense. His defense got much better this year. And you can tell where when he made an error last year, he was worried about it, and it affected him at the dish. But he's much better this year. I wouldn't go as far as saying he's the best young player since Miguel Cabrera. We've had really good young players. I don't know if you've heard of a guy like...
I haven't watched a game of baseball in like 10 years.
I don't know if you've heard a guy like you mentioned before, Mike Trout.
Well, I said young hitter. I guess all-around hitter, because all-around player is a different story, right? It is Mike Trout then, clearly. Or somebody else such as who? I mean, if you guys would come up, Nolan Arenado, right? Manny Machado, Bryce Harper even, Alex Bregman. You could go on for days. Now, how about really quick, Don, for your hot topic here, the baseball being juiced. What do you think about that, man? Because it seems like you said it yourself. All these guys are hitting home runs now, and these guys didn't used to hit home runs at these premium rates that they do now. So do you think the baseball is juiced?
I think they admitted I believe so. So, I mean, I feel like with all these guys hitting home runs now, as you said, guys you wouldn't even imagine hitting this. I mean, Tommy LaStella had a great start hitting home runs, and he's going to be in double digits. He's already in double digits. You know, a guy like that, and he says, you know, his bat, his swing, you know, he's more upright at the plate. But not only him, and look at Eduardo Escobar. He's a 30-plus home run hitter. Who would have thought the guy that was traded in the Francisco Liriano trade with the White Sox would have that many home runs right now for the Arizona Diamondbacks? It's uncanny, absolutely uncanny to believe that. And I feel like with a bunch of these guys just, you know, hitting home runs, you never would expect that, you know, maybe, you know, the ball is juice. And I would lean toward there's something going on here. I mean, even guys that come up, you know, later in the year, Aristides Aquino, you know, he had the record for the most amount of home runs and the least amount of games played up until every game played that he started for his first, you know, whatever, so many games. So I feel like obviously there is something there with the. You're right. I mean, it's a good thing to test out, especially with the baseballs, to see, you know, with all these guys hitting home runs, that the ball might be juiced.
And Dom, very fun conversation so far. And I wanted to ask you now about this guy, based on what we've talked about, home run hitters. A guy that used to hit for power, doesn't anymore. But his contract with the Tigers runs until 2023. The guy I'm talking about, Miguel Cabrera. Now, he barely even hit double-digit home runs this year. Hit 10. Has 10 right now. How about him being on the Tigers in 2021 and still being a starting player, the starting DH, and at least splitting duties down with the guys such as Kristen Stewart? Kristen can hit from the left side, Miguel from the right side. How about that platoon at DH come 2021? What do you think about the plausibility of that?
Well, I think that's very plausible. I think that's the fish that you have to sacrifice. It's the same thing where, you know, in Los Angeles, where, you know, Pujols has to play because of his contract. If you can't move him, the Tigers, I'm sure, have tried to trade him pretty much whenever they've had the opportunity, you know, to field offers, you know, probably even as recently as the deadline. But I feel like with the implausibility of his contract being moved, that Miguel Cabrera is going to be a Tiger here probably till the end of the term of his contract.
So you have to make a spot for him in the lineup because he's making so much money, $30 million annually until 2023.
Yeah.
At least split the duties with him at DH because he's not going to play
You
first
got to
base
make
ever
use
again.
of him. I mean, you can't just let that go either. You can't just say, "Oh, let's cut him." You know, you got to find something get something out of him.
So you brought up Kristen Stewart. How about the two of them splitting duties at DH?
Yeah, I actually like Stewart a lot. I feel like he has the potential. I think he's the best Tiger, you know, in all of that. And from the roster that you had projected for 2021, I think he's the best Tiger, actually. I feel like he has the potential to be a 260, 270 hitter, 28 home runs, you know, 86 driven in, something like that, 30 home runs even. I feel like he has got the most upside, even more so than someone like Reyes.
And he got hurt this year, too, which maybe stunted his growth a little bit at the plate. So Stewart has at least shown some signs of hitting for pop as well, which is a sexy thing, once again, in today's day and age of Major League Baseball. Now, how about Brandon Dixon being a backup on the Tigers come 2021, or is this really projecting too far when we're talking about backups such
way
as
too far.
Brandon Dixon?
A lot of what Dixon is doing is the virtue of having a really bad team and seeing a lot of good pitches to hit.
So him sustaining this moving
seriously
forward is probably going to be hard for him.
Yeah, I feel like he's really not that good of a hitter. A lot of his home runs, I mean, he's not really. I mean, he's getting really good pitches to hit, mind you. I mean, you're talking about, you know, where they put him in the lineup, to the top of the order, to the bottom of the order, kind of to blend in, to get him to make sure that he has a good day at the plate because there's not a lot of juice there. And I feel like Dixon thrived off, you know, moving around in the batting order because he saw better pitches to hit during certain games, at certain times because of where he was in the batting order as well. He saw a lot of pitches up in the zone, and that used to be, you know, where you could pitch him. Now everyone's still throwing him up there, and he's been taking advantage of it. You know, he's seen a lot of mistakes and taking advantage.
How about on the pitching side now? Let's transition to over there and look at Matthew Boyd to start off. Will he still be a Tiger come 2021? Because I've looked to trade him now, and he has a nice contract, though. You know, he's cheap right now under club control for the next few seasons. So with that being said, is Boyd still around come 2021?
It depends on if they want to add pitching, in 2021. If they want to add someone like another lefty like Madison Bumgarner, an older pitcher, a veteran, you bring someone like him in for the Tigers, and Boyd might be, and Bumgarner's probably going to ask for, a pretty nice contract as far as the money he wants, because he's one of the best pitchers in baseball lore. What he did in Game 7 and with the Giants in the World Series against the Royals, I feel like the Tigers, if they go that route where they get a lefty, a veteran lefty at some point, that they can move on, especially if the development of Skyball continues to grow. I feel like the Tigers will eventually trade him. And I feel like I would bet that he's not a part of the team in 2021 because of that. And I feel like the Tigers would eventually go, and they could bring someone like, I don't know, Drew Smiley back or someone like that to log innings.
Yeah, so how about a savvy right-handed vet such as Anibal Sanchez? The Sanchez coming back to Motown.
Yeah,
what do you think about that? He's a free agent after the 2020 season as of right now. So what do you think about that?
I feel like the good thing for him and his agent would just to stay in the National League.
Because he's really rejuvenated his career, right?
In the national, with the Braves and now with the Nationals. I don't think he'll come back in the American League, to be honest with you.
He learned his lesson after his
and I'm not
tenure with the Tigers at the end of that stint, right? With the Tigers.
Bumgarner will leave the National League as well. But if you were to get, what helps with Comerica Park is its dimensions for pitchers. And I feel like you might be able to get some quality, but if they pony up a little bit, quality arm there. At some point to add to the rotation, because they're going to have a lot of young guys and they're going to need a veteran.
They will by that point.
They're
right?
going to need a veteran.
That Kenny Rogers to lead the staff like in 06. Yeah. Now, who's the best young Tigers starting arm 2 seasons from now of this selection of arms they have on the farm right now? Such as Casey Mize, the first overall pick in last year's amateur draft. They have Matt Manning, a former first-rounder as well. All of these names I can name off right now, including also Alex Faedo, Bo Burrows. Who is the best young Tiger starting arm of those guys, that collection of talent, come 2021, Dom?
Okay, 2021, I'm going to have to go with Matt Manning. I feel like his fastball plays really well up anywhere. I mean, he's got the best fastball in the organization already. He's developing that third pitch, which is a changeup. If he gets that going, pitch it about, just maybe 10-11% of the time. He's already got a really good curveball. Like I said, his stuff is really good. Very good horizontal movement on his fastball. He ate some bats. He had a struggle with control in the Futures game, but he did eat a lot of bats. He gets inside. He knows how to pitch already a little bit for a youngster. Clearly the most upside. I think he's the best guy in 2021.
Can Joe Jimenez still be the Tigers' closer of the future, or is that passed him by at this point, Tom?
With Joe, it's more of just being careless. Just saying, just going up there and just reaching back, here and there. And not real worried about like the location. I feel like he's got when he's ahead in the count, he's really good still. I mean, you get 2 strikes on him, good luck, because he's got a wipeout slider. He reminds me a lot of Tiger that was here before, Bruce Rondon. Same system.
And now White Sox great.
Well, not anymore, but he reminds me a lot of Bruce Rondon in that he's got really good stuff, but he's got to learn to channel it all, and to realize that, you can't get behind in the count, especially a guy in the bullpen, because if you get behind in the leadoff walk, that's the start of disaster inning. So, especially a guy you're trying to hold a lead, I would say he's not a part of that future anymore, unfortunately, because he's been so bad now. He's had a chance up here. He might have a shot in the bullpen.
Well, it's really about who else emerges, right? As well. Now make the case for Tigers fans to come to Comerica Park in 2020. Why should they? What are the reasons for the Tigers fans to come to the ballpark next season?
You might see guys, the young pitching prospects like Alex Faedo, Casey Mize, and maybe even Matt Manning at that point. So I feel like if you like...
Well, maybe by mid-season. So, really, come opening day, there might not be a lot of excitement and a lot of positive reasons to come to the ballpark. Right? It might
there's really
have
not,
to be
unfortunately.
mid-season.
If you like seeing... maybe someone makes the team. I don't know, maybe like a... what's his name? Matt Hall? Maybe he makes the team. He was a top prospect for the Tigers.
Maybe Tyler Alexander just won his first major league victory.
Right.
Just won his first major league game.
Matt Hall
recently.
reemerges as a bona fide candidate for the rotation at some point. Daz Cameron comes up and has a really good spring
Lights
training.
the world on fire because we know
Yeah.
that's going to happen. Stay optimistic, Tigers fans. Okay?
I would gauge it as far as like how good they do in spring. If there's really good, someone like I said emerges in spring, then that obviously leads to excitement potentially for fans. So, but they're not going to win a lot of games. So if you're looking for wins,
Not
you're
going to
be
see that.
disappointed.
So you're already telling me it's not going to be a great season for the Tigers in 2020 either. Much
No.
like this year, you think, Dom, too?
I think they'll be a little bit more competitive. I think Kristen Stewart will have have a good year. They don't really have, fortunately for the Tigers, they don't really have a lot of players that have really been major league, as far as look at their WAR numbers, major league ready players, and they have a lot of guys below replacement. I think you're going to see an uptick in guys where they're going to be at least average. I think Kristen Stewart's going to make a stride. I think Candelario's going to bounce back, but other than that, I feel like there's going to be a lot of waning and see who. I don't think if Brandon Dixon's still on the team, he's not going to have as good of a year. Harold Castro's another guy that, if you like guys that aren't going to do that much, you put the ball in play, he might hit you 270. If you like
So you're telling me the outlook is very bleak for the Tigers in the major league level in 2020.
Right.
Now, how about for the skipper? Should he return as the Tigers manager in 2020? Ron Gardenhire. Is he the guy to lead this ship in the right direction next year when there might not be much leading of the ship in the right direction anyways from anybody, no matter who it would be, leading the team from the dugout?
Yeah, I don't know when the grass is going to greener. I don't know when the sun's going to shine. I feel like if I was Ron, I'd retire.
You would want out of there.
Yeah, I'd probably want to. I don't think there's enough young talent to where I'm going to make a difference in this guy's career. There's no Yohan Moncada. The Tigers really don't even have a guy like Oscar Mercado in Cleveland, he's got really good potential for the Indians. Yeah, Oscar Mercado, and then the Royals too. They have guys like Hunter Dozier. The Tigers, we'll see. I don't think they have a guy like Hunter Dozier even.
Tigers wish they had a Brian Dozier. One of those Doziers. But they don't have a lot of position talent.
No.
And even on the farm, not a lot of positional player talent right now to be seen, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason why I think Ron should step aside, sooner rather than later. I feel like by the time the Tigers actually get good, we'll see where the ownership is, but I feel like I don't know what his outlook is. I know he doesn't live here during the off-season, Ron, so I feel like he shouldn't be a part of the future. It would be, there's not many managers that stay. You know what I mean? Look at guys like...
Yost just retired because he didn't want to deal with any more losing,
Exactly.
probably, right? He saw the
And
writing on
they
the wall.
have
That's not going to
better-
get good that much quicker.
And they're probably a step ahead of the Tigers.
Well, they've got a guy like Corey Soler, at least, right? The Tigers don't
Right.
have
And
that
Hunter
kind of
Dozier.
hitter. Or Hunter Dozier. Both
Right.
of those guys.
Whit Merrifield.
You're right. So we're going to be here throughout the duration of the offseason, unfortunately. Now, we don't see Ron Gardenhire just living here at that point, at least over the offseason. But
Yeah.
before the offseason even occurs, we have the playoffs to talk about really quick. And I'm going to pick your brain really quick here, Dom, and leave you with this. Your World Series prediction. What is it? Putting you on the hot seat here to end this week's episode of Tigers Talk.
I'm going to say the Astros and the Cardinals.
Wow, the Cards. Tigers' arch nemesis in the World Series in recent memory. And who wins then of those two teams?
I'm gonna say the Cardinals win. Actually,
Wow.
Yeah.
What have you been smoking?
I think that.
Now tell me why. Got to explain yourself
Okay,
now,
so
D.
and I've mentioned this to you before. Their pitching's really good this year. They've had the best earned run average in the second half. Their bullpen is really good as well. The only thing that's might hold them up in the National League, though, I will say this about the National League: there's the offenses other than the Dodgers, pretty easy to break. I mean, you can pitch your way out of it, and I think because they have the superstars that are underachieving, like Marcell Ozuna, who had a 40 home run season in Miami, being protected by Giancarlo Stanton, and Paul Goldschmidt, 3-time Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger winner. I feel like if they have those guys, and if you look at their bottom of the order, a guy like Tommy Edman, who had a home run the other day against Scherzer, he's in close to 300, if not 300. Their bottom of the order it's good enough to flip it to the top of the order, which Dexter Fowler, was at a better year than last year. Paul DeYoung, who was their lone all-star. The lineup, as bad as those numbers look across the board, I think the lineup has a ton of potential because their pitching can carry them just enough to get over the hump and make the World Series.
And Dexter Fowler, a nice playoff performer with the Cubs at one point as well. So remember that. So, and Goldschmidt can hit. We know he can. He hasn't done as well with the Cards since he joined the Cards. And same thing can be said with Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of, like I said, the bullpen's really good. You got Miller, Martinez.
They can be lights out
Gallegos.
there, right? So their arms are going to make the difference.
And their
you're saying.
starting arms too. The best pitcher's been Jack Flaherty in the majors since the All-Star break. I feel like their hitting is just good enough. The only thing that could slip, they don't really have a left-handed bat because Matt Carpenter's been really bad.
So they can throw and throw. They can throw lights out, throw the heat, and beat the Dodgers, you said. How about my Nats? How about my Washington Nationals? Dom, come on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about them.
But what you don't like about them is that they don't have Bryce Harper anymore.
They have.
I know you had said that before off the air with me, before when I've talked about the Nats and how much I love the Nationals and their chances of maybe making a run this year.
Yeah, their outfield has been underperforming a little bit. But Adam Eaton is a big downgrade from Bryce Harper. I feel like if you put Bryce Harper on this team could make the World Series. This team could probably get you over the hump. It makes you wonder why Mike Rizzo wouldn't just
open up the checkbook to retain Harper and pay him more because they had extended him or they gave him some sort of an offer, right?
If it was only a matter of a few million, what's a few million to a big boss like him?
Sure.
So I think because the year that Anthony Rendon's been the MVP in the national, I mean, you could argue he's been the MVP in the National League. Yelich and Bellinger bailing that out.
But now Yelich shouldn't win it. The Brewers are going to win make the playoffs anyways without him. So, hey, Yelich shouldn't be winning. How about Anthony Rendon, like you said?
Yeah.
He should win it maybe. Or Bellinger with the Dodgers, who are the clear-cut favorite. I know Indiana with the best record in the National League. But, yeah, Cardinals are another team that could do it, a dark horse of some sort, and the Nationals for sure a big dark horse. Now, they did eliminate the Phillies, by the way. They eliminated the Phillies, who are led by your man Bryce Harper. So the Nats did do that.
Another point, too, is the Cardinals' bullpen is much better than the Nationals' bullpen.
Nats' bullpen is stinko.
They've had the most come behind. They've had to come behind and win a lot of games, the Nationals, this year. So, and you could say that might help them out. Oh, they've got that resolve.
But Rendon still needs to hit. He's got to really carry the Nats lineup, right? Because if he doesn't hit, they're probably not going to do well hitting.
They don't.
Right?
Their outfield, the lineup really isn't good. Robles had a bad year all around. Throughout he's been a little bit better recently. But and then they don't really have another power bat. I mean, they got Matt Adams has got to hit for you, hit a home run for you in the playoffs. I just feel like the team is, if their bullpen was better, I'd be more comfortable. But you could argue they have the arms to go the distance. But
yeah, Corbin, Scherzer, Strasburg, big 1 through 3 right there. But the bullpen, when you get to the pen of the Nationals, you can just shellac them, can't you? And with that being said, Dom, I don't want to shellac you any longer here, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you for all the time, and are you ready for Sunday? For the debut episode of Sundays with Dom and Vito?
Absolutely, Vito. Looking forward to it, and Until next time.
Until next time, and thanks to all our sponsors on this week's episode of Tiger Talk that made this episode of Tiger Talk possible. And those sponsors are the Detroit Sports Commission and DC Sports at Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights. Guys, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again next week, probably with my co-host back in the fray, and that is John Charles McElroon. Guys, adios.